Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest impacting our community in a positive way. Today, I welcome the Kennedy Commission Executive Director, Cesar Covarrubias. He directs the advocacy, education, and outreach activities that develop solutions to housing needs and unites communities across Orange County to support affordable housing development. Thank you, Cesar, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you for having me here today and highlighting this great issue that needs a lot of attention and that is very much in need in our community.
Cesar, since 2006, the Kennedy Commission has been successful in facilitating over 4,000 new affordable homes in Orange County for lower-income households, including families, seniors, veterans, and those living with special needs. How did the Commission accomplish this?
The Commission's a collaborative advocates, financial institutions, developers, and also the members of the community who are very diligently working on affordable housing solutions. So part of our work is to work with local cities to be able to come up with programs and solutions for affordable housing. So a lot of this is done through policy work and also organizing and highlighting and educating on the issue of the need for affordable housing, but also on solutions. So a lot of the programs that we work with local cities and with the state highlight the need for affordable housing, but also propose specific policies and programs that ultimately generate affordable housing development in Orange County.
Explain some of the policies that you help develop with the cities to accomplish the task of having affordable housing.
Great. Every city in Orange County and in the state, for that matter, has to have a housing plan, and those are called housing elements. And these are 8-year planning plans where you have to identify resources, opportunities for affordable housing development sites, and policies and programs. And so a lot of these programs come out of this document that generates a commitment from the city to work on these issues. And the work that we do highlights the importance of connecting the community participation along with the public policy and the financing for affordable housing. So a few of the programs that we worked on are, for example, the affordable housing plan in the city of Anaheim some years ago that highlighted roughly about 3,000 new units of affordable housing. And that was a partnership between the commission and also the city staff and the elected officials in Anaheim to focus on how do we get 2,000 to 3,000 units produced of affordable housing within the span of 5 years. And in that exercise, we were able to highlight some of the needs in the community along with resources that the city had, state resources and regional resources, and then focus on city-owned sites to make sure we highlighted the opportunity. Others include like the city of Irvine, where they have an inclusionary housing ordinance. Inclusionary housing ordinances are policies that ultimately work with developers to incentivize greater incentives for them in development in exchange for affordable housing. In many cases, like in in Irvine, you would request that a developer give you 15% of the units affordable of what they're proposing, but in exchange for that, they get additional bonuses to be able to develop more units. So an example would be, instead of you getting 100 units, you get 150, 120 units to be developed in your development in exchange for that affordability, along with a variety of other incentives that you may have for your development. It could be an increase in height. It could be a reduction in setbacks or the requirements that are meant to build in your community. Another example is the city of Santa Ana, where there is a housing opportunity ordinance, and that housing opportunity ordinance recognizes that there's a need for market rate housing, but at the same time says we will allow you to develop market rate housing in some of these areas that we have identified that potentially are not currently zoned for housing, the mixed use concept, or there may be also commercial or industrial. And the city will allow you to develop residential developments as long as a percentage, 15% of the units are affordable. And again, a lot of those same incentives that I mentioned earlier apply to the city of Santa Ana, where they would give the developer additional incentives to help them develop the housing, market rate housing, but along with that, some affordable housing.
You say affordable housing. Can you define that for us?
Great. That's a great question. Affordable housing in a lot of communities is very different. In Orange County, our median income is around $109,000 for the county. So somebody making $100,000 in Orange County would be considered low income. So when we talk about affordable housing, we are talking about working families making $30,000 up to right about $100,000 in our communities. So these are working families in our communities that are struggling to find housing that is affordable to a lot of them. And when we're talking about specifically more the lower incomes, individuals, families making $30,000 to around $60,000 a month, you can see how that income is not sufficient to be able to afford a typical two-bedroom apartment in Orange County, which is running roughly around $2,500 to $2,700 a month. So if you're making $3,000 a month, that barely is covering your housing costs. So that's what we usually define as affordable in our county. And we at the commission focus more on the lower income, which is those making $30,000 to around $60,000, to ensure that there are housing opportunities. And then traditional affordable housing, working families have to have an income, and they would have to pay around 30% of their income towards rent. So that allows working families to be able to thrive in their communities and be able to spend on healthcare, transportation, food, and all the other necessities in life.
Now, are we talking them to own the home or to rent a home?
There are programs for both. When we talk about the high incomes and the high cost of housing in our county, homeownership's a little bit more challenging because our typical purchase for a property in Orange County is upwards of $1 million or so. So to make that affordable to a lot of working families in the income segments that we talked about, that home would have to be available at roughly $500,000. And so that's a huge delta. Somebody needs to come up with a subsidy that would cover the additional $500,000. So you can see how complicated that may get. You may be able to help 10 families with $5 million, or with $5 million, you can actually develop a rental housing development that may generate upwards of 100 units or so. And when I say those $5 million may generate that, it's not that $5 million cost is what it would cost to build that affordable. It's $5 million that a for-profit developer cannot usually do anything with, but a nonprofit developer would be able to leverage state tax credits, bonds, and a variety of other funding sources from the state and federal government that would allow us to develop 100 units of rental with that gap financing.
So you're helping all the cities to try to find affordable housing?
So our function is to advocate in every city in Orange County. Every city needs to do their part to address this critical need in their community, in the county as a whole. And we have 35 jurisdictions in the county, and each city needs to do its part to be able to address our critical homelessness and affordable housing crisis here in the county.
Are they doing it?
Well, as I mentioned, every city has to have a housing plan. Those housing plans were due to the state and needed to be approved by October of 2021. To date, we have 13 cities out of our 34 cities in the county that have actually accomplished that. So we are still working with the remaining cities to get them to do that. And that's a starting point. And then getting the cities to approve affordable housing developments and put their sites and their funding towards creation of affordable housing is a different story. I think we are, in this moment, we have a few cities that are moving forth very rapidly to address that issue. City of Irvine has over 6,000 units of affordable housing planned. I think probably those about roughly 500 are going to be affordable. City of Santa Ana has roughly about 5,000 units in the pipeline to be approved, and of those, about 1,000 units are going to be affordable. So we do have some movement. There are other cities, some developments just recently approved in South Orange County with San Juan Capistrano doing a development that's going to have, I believe, 40 units or so. So there's a mix of housing for families, for permanent supportive housing to address homelessness. So there are some inroads being made in our county where we are getting more units, but we need every city to take an active role in finding their sites and putting those out so that developments can happen on those and address this critical issue.
Do you help them figure out who gets to get the affordable housing? Because I would think a lot of people would try to get those homes.
There is a great waiting list every time there is a affordable housing development that is developed and open. There usually is a waiting list of 1,000 units for 100 units. So you can see that the need exceeds the actual output. So we need more production of affordable housing. And I think that's an interesting situation that we are seeing throughout the county, that market rate development has been very robust. But when it comes to the ratio of affordable within that market rate development, we are seeing that cities are not meeting their needs at the lower income segment when they're exceeding their above moderate income housing that's being developed.
Don't they face challenges in offering affordable housing?
Cities do face those challenges because they often have opposition to some of these developments. They often have different priorities, and it's our job, and I think a lot of our residents in Orange County would agree, that working families deserve a dignified place to live. And when we're talking about affordable housing, we're talking about our kids who are returning back to Orange County and can't find affordable housing where they can live, or market rate housing they can afford because they're starting out. We also have working families who fall into those income categories that I mentioned to, 30,000 to 100,000, that are not able to find housing in Orange County, and they're leaving the state or going to adjacent counties where rent or housing may be cheaper. So those challenges, I think, do exist for the opposition, but we have to be able to educate our electorate and also our constituents to let them know that when we talk about affordable housing, we're talking about our folks that are here today that can't find where to live in their communities and are working and are being the contributors in our community, and we need to help them thrive in our communities.
What's the Orange County Affordable Housing and Homeless Bond?
Well, that's a great segue to what we see as the next step in the solution for affordable housing. As we mentioned, there are quite a few efforts in every city to address affordable housing with land and with some affordable housing being developed. There's also recently created Orange County Housing Trust and Finance Trust. The Finance Trust is developed to be able to pool together money from local governments and also from other resources, state governments, to be able to accelerate affordable housing development. But that investment in the Finance Trust has been roughly about $80 million or so in the last few years, which is not very significant when we talk about solutions. So a housing bond is a bond that is generated at the county level. So that would be put out to the electorate to approve that the local government, the county in this case, issue bonds to address affordable housing and homelessness crisis in Orange County. And this has been successfully done in many areas, a few up in the Northern California area. The Santa Clara County has been able to issue a bond that's roughly about $960 million to address homelessness. And with that, they project homelessness and affordable housing. With that, they project that they can probably develop in the neighborhood of 6,000 units to address a critical housing need in the community. So here in Orange County, that's what we are seeing, is that there isn't enough money to be invested to actually address the issue of homelessness and affordable housing at the magnitude that we have a need for, right? So the idea would be for our county leaders to put housing bond on the ballot and have the electorate vote for that to be able to address our critical need of affordable housing and homelessness as a solution.
And you believe that will do it?
We believe it will make a great difference in our county because right now we have a lot of developments that are potentially available. We don't have the funding to be able to fund the development of the affordable housing or the permanent supportive housing that is the critical need in our community.
So the consequence is homelessness.
In many cases, the consequence is homelessness. It's also overcrowding. It's also families living in multiple in a unit. And those ramifications are also have a ripple effect in our economy, in our freeways, along with also having folks live in other parts and commuting into Orange County. The 91 freeway is a prime example of it. And then in addition to that, there are critical health consequences with COVID. We saw that a lot of communities that live together in congregate settings, like shelters and working families that have 2 or 3 individuals sharing apartments, had the greatest cases of COVID in those cases because they didn't have places to isolate to, right? And they didn't have the opportunity to live in a space where they were able to not be contagious or not be exposed to the contagious issues in our community. Additionally, I think part of it is that we do see that in the homelessness scenarios, we see a lot of those recurring visits to the emergency care systems because that's the only way that they have access to health care. So we do see that having affordable housing or permanent supportive housing to be able to have stabilization of working families and those who are indigent is a critical step to addressing homelessness and all the other issues that happen as a result of the lack of affordable housing in their community.
How can people help your organization?
Well, the Kennedy Commission is always looking for advocates and volunteers to help us do the advocacy in our community. I think our critical part right now is to get folks to have education on what affordable housing truly is and what are some of those solutions. So we offer trainings and we offer also opportunities for working groups to work together in your particular cities or regionally in the county on solutions to affordable housing and be able to also address decision makers as to what the critical need for affordable housing is and what are some of the potential solutions.
Give us some examples of that happening.
So we have currently 5 working groups in Orange County working in various cities who are working on these housing elements that I mentioned earlier, these housing plans, to be able to have specific commitments from cities on sites for affordable housing development that are owned by the cities and funding for affordable housing along with the policies and programs, and then educating the electorate along with decision makers on these critical needs, and then moving forth with the implementation of those housing plans to make sure we have the reality of actual affordable housing production being met in their communities.
Who are these people that are helping you?
A lot of them are advocates who are individuals who see the critical need in their community. They see it in their daily life with family members who are struggling to remain housed. We have individuals who are directly impacted by the lack of affordable housing, who live in neighborhoods that are overcrowded because of the lack of affordable housing, that are living in an apartment with 2 or 3 families. We also, those are immediate individuals who are impacted by this and they want to share their stories and want to share also the opportunity for solutions. We also have career-minded individuals who may work in a different space but see the critical need in the community and are helping us advocate. They want to get educated on the issue and they want to see how they can help. And the way that they can help is by helping us do our advocacy, by helping us educate on this critical need. I think we all know the need firsthand because we see it in the streets every day with homelessness. We also see it in our families with individuals that may not be able to afford to live in our communities and are moving away or having to live in our homes, share our homes, or share homes with others. And so those individuals clearly care deeply about this issue and see it as also an economic issue because they see that if they don't maintain our working families and our young people who are getting educated, coming back to Orange County, and then realizing they can't live here, they're going to go elsewhere. And that's our future. Those are the critical minds that are going to be making critical decisions and developing solutions and making our economy thrive. And they need to live here in Orange County to be able to put all their efforts towards that task.
How are you with dealing with the incredible role that you have?
Well, I'm very optimistic that we see opportunities in the horizon for a collective approach to addressing the affordable housing and homelessness in Orange County. I see a lot of folks trying to figure out how to participate because they see this as an issue that impacts them in the daily life and also impacts our economy, right? If we don't have the workforce here in Orange County, that's going to be critical for us to be able to address our future. So I'm very optimistic that we have those opportunities. I also see a tremendous challenge with, it's a big issue. It's a multi-generational issue that we've been trying to address for a while. But I truly believe that there's an opportunity now to look at these models where other communities are investing significant resources to address the issue, and they see it as a way to address the downturn in health, economic issues. We're going to be paying for these issues of not having proper housing by having more people on our highways, our freeways, by having more overcrowding, and by not having the workforce. So I think that there is a critical opportunity for us to rally around a housing bond that generates new housing funds to address our critical needs in Orange County.
Thank you, the Kennedy Commission Executive Director Cesar Covarrubias, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.